Hello guys and welcome back to Makeup FOMO. Today we are going to do one of my favorite types of videos. Today we are going to be doing a foundation first impression review, and it's going to be on the L'Oreal Paris Infallible Total Cover Foundation. This is another one where I'm like the very last person to ever try it, but I've heard like nothing but good things, and I love me a good full coverage foundation. So I'm really excited to try this. I just like love the aesthetic of this, like the squeeze bottle, and it has like this really pointy little nozzle. I don't know, I like that for some reason. Also, like I've said in some other videos, just disregard the background. We are in the process of moving, and I literally like can't move all these boxes because there's boxes everywhere else, so like these have to be here. So please just disregard. It's not the prettiest, but it's not about that. It's about the foundation. So I got the shade 305 Natural Beige, which is I think like the 4th or 5th shade in the range. This is the full coverage weightless feel, which is interesting, and it has 24-hour wear. So a lot of times full coverage foundations don't typically feel weightless, so I definitely want to see if that's true. Like I said, since this is 305, it's like definitely in the middle of the range, but I do still have quite a tan. I just love how they do like this little spectrum thing on the back here. So this one says that the finish is natural. It wears up to 24 hours, has high coverage, and an air light texture. So that's pretty much all of the claims. Like I said, I've just heard a ton of people love this foundation, love the coverage and everything like that. So I had to try it. I've been loving that Pro Glow one. Like I said, I did a video, like a first impression on that one, which should already be up. And I've been wearing that like non-stop. It's so perfect for like the summertime. I'm loving it. This is obviously going to be a little more coverage, but I am excited to try it out. Per usual, we are going to do a brush on one side, which is going to be the Sigma F80, and then we're going to do a sponge on the other, which per usual, I've been obsessed with my Sonia Kashuk little blending sponge. This is already damp. So like usual, we're going to do one on each side, and let's get started. Alright, so you guys are all zoomed in, up close and personal. Let's try this out. So obviously, I haven't even seen what this looks like yet. I'm hoping this is a good color. Oh, it's like really thick. Like to get it out, I'm like squeezing so hard on the bottle, and it's like coming out so slowly. Wow, that is super thick. Do you see that? But typically, you know, fuller coverage foundations are a little bit on the thicker side, so I can't say I'm surprised. And I didn't like prime or anything my face. I just put on some moisturizer. My skin is just so extra dry right now just because of like being in the sun. Oh, it just dries my skin out so much. So my skin is super dry. I put on a little bit of moisturizer to hopefully help that, and then let's just dot this around. Wow, this is so thick. All right, let's start with that. The problem with the squeezy tubes though is that I can't like be consistent with how much I use or tell you how much I use. Like with a pump, I always just let you know, like I use 1 pump and then half a pump or whatever. But with a squeeze tube, I'm just like, I just squeeze some out. I don't know how much. Let's blend this in with the Sigma F80. Ooh. It definitely has some coverage. The only thing that I'm noticing just right up here, I don't know if it's because I blended this last and it kind of sat there for a minute, or if it's just because my forehead is the driest part of me, but it feels like it has some like drag when I'm trying to blend it out up here. Like it's not blending in super easily. But it might have just started to set right away, or it might just be because my skin is so dry. I didn't really have that over here at all, but that's also because I started blending that immediately, so that might be why. Wow, that was like the perfect amount of product. I didn't like do too much, it doesn't look like, where it like looks really heavy, but I did just enough where it was like enough to like stretch for the whole half of my face. So actually, I think you can tell just from looking at me right on that like this side is just clearly a lot more covered. The skin tone is just totally evened out over here. Like you can tell even under my eyes, I obviously didn't put concealer, but even under my eyes, like you can see it's a lot more evened out, and it actually looks quite luminous, which it says it has a natural finish, so it's not demi matte or radiant. That's like right in the middle of the spectrum there. So I would definitely say it's a pretty natural finish because it's really only shiny like right over here, but all over here like it looks not matte but not luminous either. It's a little bit, it's definitely less luminous than right here, but it definitely has that more natural kind of like satiny finish, I think I would say. And honestly, it blended so well. I've been having like, I don't know if it's just because of like the peach fuzz on my face or what, but I've been having just kind of a lot of patchiness with like powders and cream products in this area, but it literally looks perfectly smooth and flawless all over here and honestly on my whole face. And I think you guys know I usually use a pore filling primer. That's like the only kind of primer I typically use, but obviously I didn't do that today. It doesn't seem to be accentuating my pores like at all. They actually look quite smoothed over, which this doesn't like claim to be smoothing necessarily, but it definitely seems to have done that. This looks really good, and I didn't really have to use very much product, I don't feel like. So I think if you use too much though, this could definitely look cakey, because even though it does look fairly natural, it definitely doesn't look like you're wearing no makeup at all. You can definitely tell that you have makeup on, in like a good way though. So just like generally speaking, I do prefer a brush with most foundations just because it gives you a little bit more coverage, and I usually like to maintain as much coverage as I can with my foundations. But there are some that just look really good with a sponge, like actually I do really like the Pro Glow with a sponge. That looks really good. I like the Flower Beauty one with a sponge. But since this is supposed to be full coverage, I don't really want to take away from the coverage by using a sponge, but maybe that won't happen. So I have my handy dandy, oh so dirty, I know. I have my handy dandy Sonia Kashuk sponge, and we're going to blend this out. I don't know if it's just me, but it seems like after you dot it and you leave it there for like even a minute, it seems to just almost start like setting. And like on my chin when I first started blending it out, and even on my like upper lip, it started just like, you could still see like the splotch where I like dotted it. And I feel like I had to put like a lot of pressure and almost like blend the sponge rather than like dabbing it to kind of get that to go away. And I kind of feel like it was happening on this side of my face too. So I do think that this might kind of start setting pretty quickly, so you would want to work pretty quick and not like dot your whole entire face. Probably just do half at a time, kind of like I did, but don't talk to a camera, just start blending. I don't know though, I'm really not as crazy about this side. It just seems like it definitely did not keep the same level of coverage as this side, and I definitely used just about the same amount of product. Like I said, it's hard to tell because there's no pump, but it appeared that I used the same amount of product, but like it's definitely not covering as much, and it's looking kind of a little bit uneven, kind of in that area like I was telling you that I get a little bit patchy. I kind of felt like it was doing the same thing on my forehead where it just like wasn't blending quite as smoothly, which that's the same as the brush side. But I don't really like how it looks on this side as much. Like I feel like my pores are a little bit more exaggerated on this side, and it looks a little bit just like not as blended. Does that make sense? Typically I feel like a sponge, if anything, would blend better just because it's wet and it's like pushing it into your skin, you know? But this just kind of looks like it's sitting on my skin on this side, whereas this side it just looks like it kind of settled in and like warmed up to my skin. I think if you look at me head on, you can kind of almost tell that like this side is just more even than this side. Like the discoloration under my eyes is a little bit more obvious. You can definitely see like a little bit more freckles than you can see on this side, I think. Yeah, I'm just not that crazy about the sponge side with this one. So I think what I'm going to do is just add a tiny bit more with the brush just to kind of like even things out. Oh yeah, like literally right away. It just looks smoother and like, I don't know. But they look like the finish is just about the same regardless. So I'd probably recommend a brush for this one. I mean, if you prefer sponges, I know a lot of people just don't use anything but sponges. It's still fine, but I don't like it as much for me personally. Okay, so I'm just going to finish up the rest of my makeup. I'm just gonna do something pretty simple and natural. I will come back and let you know how it like looks after a little while, how my other products applied, and all that. So I will be right back. Okay guys, so I'm all set with the rest of my makeup. I just kept it pretty simple with just like a little bit of concealer under my eyes, blush, bronzer, highlight, And then just mascara on my eyes and a little bit of black liner, or not even liner, black shadow right at the top of my lash line. So I look a little bit more put together, and I think this foundation looks so good. I think the best thing about it is that the shade really matches me super well. Like I said, this is Natural Beige 305, and I think it like matches with my chest and the rest of my body really well. It's kind of like the perfect shade for me when I'm tan. I'm typically not a whole lot darker than this, maybe a little bit, but I think in general that will be a really good like summer shade for me. So here's a little bit of a closer look at how it looks on my skin. It really just like smoothed everything over. The only place the only place that I put concealer was under my eyes. I did not conceal, like spot conceal anywhere, and I feel like it covered the perfect amount for me. As you guys know, I don't need like the fullest of full coverage because I don't actually have any like active breakouts at all right now, so I don't have like anything in particular to cover. I just really like a very even canvas on my face, and but I do like a little bit of freckles to peek through. This is definitely more full coverage than the Pro Glow for sure. Like you can't really see much of my freckles peeking through, so this is definitely on the fuller coverage side. I just don't know if I would consider it like 100% full coverage. If you had anything to cover, I'm not sure it would do that, just because like you can see a little bit peeking through, but I would definitely consider it like low full coverage probably, just not like the fullest of full coverage. But the nice part about it is that even though it is quite full coverage, it doesn't look heavy or cakey on the skin at all. I think especially with everything blended out on top of it, it looks very natural. You can certainly tell that I have makeup on. Like I'm not going for a no makeup look by any means, but it melted into my skin so well. It is not creasing anywhere. Like even in my smile lines, I don't know what has been going on lately, but I haven't been getting nearly as much smile lines lately. I have been using, like I said, like a pore filling primer just in this general area, so I think that helps, but I didn't use that today, so this foundation just might not be a creaser, which would be awesome. And like I said, even though my skin is pretty dry, especially on my forehead, like it definitely isn't laying funny anywhere. I don't think that it's clinging to any dry patches. Like I said, it was just a little bit harder to blend in those areas. I do still think my pores on this side just look way more exaggerated than on the side with the brush, so I'd still stick with the fact that I think the brush is the way to go. But overall, I would rate this foundation pretty highly. Like I said, if you want pretty full coverage, you're gonna like this. It's not, like I said, the fullest of full, but it definitely gets the job done while still looking really smooth and kind of skin-like. As you guys know, I don't typically do like a wear test or anything with my foundation reviews, just because I don't have like oily skin or anything like that. Like my foundation in general just doesn't tend to really do much during the day because my skin is just super normal. So it pretty much stays put, but I think overall I'm really feeling this foundation. I mean, it's a drugstore foundation, so that's always a bonus. I think it retails for like $9 or $10, something like that. So it's pretty standard. You get the typical 1 fluid ounce. So I think for the money, it gets the job done. It works really well, and they actually do have a pretty decent color range as well. Also, I wanted to add everything blended super well on top of this. I did set it with the powder. I literally always set my face with a powder. So I know a lot of people, if it sets down, they don't, but I didn't feel like this one, even if you don't like to do that, you could, because it did feel pretty tacky even after I'd sat on my face for a while. So definitely recommend setting this one, which I did, and my like brush bronzer highlight, everything blended out super well. I didn't have any of that patchiness that I've been having lately, so I definitely think that this one is good to set, but also good for blending on top of. So that is going to be all for this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed. If you would like to subscribe, we would love to have you. We have so much fun here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in our next video. Bye, guys.